Many national and international events of late have reignited a debate on religion. Religion, spirituality, and whether these religions are ethical, whether they are going to be moral or not. And they have been ostensibly stimulated by certain facts, like the Taliban is controlling Afghanistan and in the name of religion killing a huge number of people. They are themselves following diktats to the people about following the Sharia, that is a law that is identified with Islam and that is synonymous with Islam. A good number of people from India, from different quarters, and now they are voicing their opinion that in some states where Muslims are a majority, that should also be converted into a Sharia law rather than following the constitution. And Islam throughout the whole of the world, while it tries to kill people in the name of religion by saying that they are kafirs and that these people do not going to deserve to be living on the earth, an earth that is going to be so pure, has reignited that part. Now, in contrast to that, there are going to be other conditions as well. For example, the debate that took place in between Israel and that of Hamas with respect to that, and so on. Hinduism and Islam as well. Islam is going to be at loggerheads with almost all of them. Christianity is also going to be a part of it. That means they're going to say that is a mass conversion must going to take place, and that this type of a mass conversion, they try to follow a good number of tricks which may be considered and which are being considered right now, whether they are going to be moral or ethical or not. So one of these topics that are part of that happens to be part of a topic of ethics is going to be whether all religions are they spiritual, are they ethical, and is it that they go on to preach you morality, or is it that they go to create conditions for you where exactly you can be moral or not? This has been a debate of sorts in this case. Now, taking a look at it, we'll go on to talk about beginning with how is it that values and ethics are going to be correlated with each other. Well, values determine what is right and what is wrong. And doing what is right or wrong is what we mean by ethics. That means no one determines it other than ourselves, whether some of the things that we are doing is going to be right or wrong, and that what we know is right or wrong is what is meant as ethics, all in all. That is saying some of these things that is going to be against the values of anyone for that matter, and proving wrong as right is not ethical at all. And when you're going to prove wrong and right, that is where ethics comes into being. For example, maybe that you have understood it and you have observed that in the light of whatever Taliban is doing in Afghanistan, there are some quarters which go on to be justifying all the actions of Taliban, saying that they all are Muslims and that they have every right to do whatever that they can go to do in their own country. They have, after all, got freedom. And that whether they're going to kill people, whether they're going to rape children, whether they go on to give them punishment by chopping their hands, by putting it in hot oil or in any form possible, whatever that they can go to do, that is correct, because that is what the religion goes on to preach. And whether they will want the same thing to be meted out to them or not in one form, that is a moot point. But then that is what exactly has ignited this type of a debate. Values have a major influence on person's behavior and attitude. And when we say that values have a major influence, that means it's values that determines how is it that you will going to behave, what exactly will be the type of attitude. If you're going to think that in the name of religion, you have to kill people, of course your attitude will be like that. If you know that all of these religions are going to be, they are religions and that people have to be free of it, then that means that that is also going to be one of these type of a value, because you will start respecting people in this case here. These are the values that are going to serve as a broad guideline in all the type of situations. It's like when you're going to be coming across a person and you know that he is from a different region, he is from a different religion. What all that you want to do is, that is you may try to help that person if the person is in trouble. Or maybe that you're going to think that the person goes on professing a different type of a religion and a faith. Maybe that you're going to chop him off and try to kill him. You must have come across a variety of type of situations where some of these fruit vendors, what they did was that they started using their saliva to propagate corona, and that was throughout the whole of the country, and you keep on getting it, keep on getting it. You may be coming across some person who will go on to be urinating in the water of pani puri, essentially for the purpose of spreading this type of a hatred as well in this case. Now, a person who knows the difference between right and wrong and chooses right is what exactly we're going to be calling it as moral. That is, everyone knows whether they are doing whatever that they are doing is right or wrong. Maybe that they have been preached to do something right and they don't know whether it is going to be wrong at all, because that is what has been preached by their religion. For example, what is preached in madrasas in that manner is that is you have to hate people, everyone else other than non-Muslims are going to be the people who deserve to be killed and whatnot, all of these things. If that is going to be the case in this case, then it's not their fault, because this is what they have known. This is how exactly that they have grown up. But is it that they will want the same thing to be done to them also? Now, if it is that they want the same thing to be done to them, now that goes on to become moral. If it is not, then that is immoral. That means you have a different type of a yardstick for something else and you have a different type of yardstick for something else. It's like you attack someone. It's like I'm going to give you a situation. You attack someone. That is right. And in retaliation, the person or any of these religions or faith go on to attack you. That is wrong. Now that goes on to become immoral. Now this is what exactly happened in Israel. That is, Israelis were calm, peaceful, and that all of a sudden Hamas attacked them. Now, in trying to defend themselves, they had a shield in this case, and they started defending themselves in all possible manner. And in trying to defend themselves in all possible manner, the whole of one of these communities started criticizing that Israelis don't have a right to live in this world, and they started hate preaching, and they also started questioning the existence of Israel itself. Now, wrong or right is not what we are going to be judging in this case. Our concern is only about what is moral, what is not. As per the topic, we are not here to talk about whether someone was wrong or someone was right. But as per the topic, that is how exactly we can go to differentiate that part. Now, following that part, you can understand that a person, when we are talking about that is any person whose morality is going to be reflected in his willingness to do right thing, even if it is dangerous, is what is called as ethical. It's like you understand that in certain type of situations, maybe trying to save someone is going to be dangerous, and you're still going to be doing it. So that is ethical. That is what is called as ethics. And maybe that you go on to find that a person is going to be maybe dying or is in a problem, and then we can go to increase the problem, aggravate the problem. Now that's going to become unethical. For example, what happened in India at one point of a time, 1990, if you consider that situation, well, the Kashmiri Muslims, what they did was, one of these fine days, they were living with some people for millenniums, for centuries. Although they have gone for genocide and they have massacred the people who couldn't go on to follow their faith. And they announced after their Friday prayers that all of those people must go on to leave Kashmir who are not Muslims, and they must go on to leave their wives and daughters behind so that they can be raped. Now, in response to that, there was not even a single noise that was heard in India against that. Even now also by the same Muslim community. They don't want to be criticizing these things at all. They say that this was right because this is what was preached by religion. Now, whether the Muslims will also want the same thing to be done to be them or not, now that goes on to raise a question mark. We don't want to question their faith. They have every right to follow their faith. They have every right to follow their religion. But whether they will want the same thing to be done to them in this sense or not, that goes on to become a question. Now, whether that goes on to, if some of them going to say that they are following the constitution, then is it that this was prescribed in the constitution? And is it that some of these communities who say that this was right and that should have been done, then that goes on to become very, very dangerous, all in terms of the overall attitude of the people in this case. Now, ethics are values and principles that guide what is wrong and right behavior. This is something that we have done. And the golden rule is do unto others as they would have done unto you. That means you do something to them and you also want the same thing to be done to you. That means it also goes on to mean that there is you expect a same type of a behavior done to you as you're going to do to someone else. That means if you're going to do right, then of course you're going to expect right. Even if it is that you're going to do something wrong, you still expect that is something right to happen. For example, what was the wrong that was done by the Kashmiri Pandits in this case to be evicted out, and that the government at that point of time supported the eviction of it? Can you imagine who was the Home Minister of India at that point of time? Mufti Muhammad Saeed. He was the one and who aggravated the situation. He created it so. Now, being a Home Minister, his role was essentially to protect the Constitution, to safeguard the Constitution, not exactly that to misuse his position of sorts. So that has raised a lot of question mark about the ethical nature of a Home Minister, because he chooses not to be the Home Minister of India first. He chooses to be a Muslim because he also wants to clean the whole of the world of kafirs. That means the people who don't want to be following that path. Now that goes on to raise this question: was it ethical? Was it value loaded? Now, it is in this connection that what we are trying to do in this case is, what we're going to do is, we are going to be comparing at least three of these faiths, Islam, Christianity, and Hinduism, whether, and of course, laced with logic, whether religions can be ethical, they can be moral, or they can be spiritual. Now, spirituality has nothing to do with religion at all. And when we're going to be talking about spirituality has a different connotation and a different meaning all in this case. And that goes on to become one of these core aspects. Now, morals are core belief about life, humanity, and nature. If you go on to see someone who is in trouble, to be human means you are going to be helping them. And to be human, humanity is your first dharma, first duty. That is what is called as dharma. Now, it's like when you are a human being, you are a human first. Hindu later on, Indian if it's still later on. If you are a human, you are again a human first, and then Muslim later on, Pakistani even is still later on, and a global citizen is still later on, because that is a humanity. That is what humanity is about. And it's the same thing with respect to Christianity as well in this case. Now, dharma has been, the word has been misinterpreted all in most of the places in India. And when we say that it has been misinterpreted, you will go to understand that this misinterpretation has been in a variety of forms. This misinterpretation has been in the form of something like considering it synonymous to that of a religion, which is not. Dharma is not the same as religion. Dharma is what you need to do as a human being. That is what is going to be significant in this way. What you need to do as a human being in this case. And what you feel about others as much as you want them to feel about you. Being human means you will always go on to talk about, let's say you're going to be talking about animals, and that you're going to say that his animal rights have to be taken care of and so on. For example, there is one organization called as PETA, and that is one of those type of rights that is going to be talked about. That is people for ethical treatment of animals. Now, if PETA people go on to say that Indians should not go on to, that is Hindus should not go on to kill any animal, of course they don't go on to be killing it in general, then they should be equally voicing their concern with respect to Bakrid when billions of goats are going to be killed worldwide, and that too mercilessly. Then that is what exactly is going to be done. So being dharmic means you don't have, it's not that you are following a religion. Being dharmic means you are following something that is what your inner consciousness goes on to say to you. Because being a human being, this is what exactly that you have to do. And you say that this is how you have to be treated by the others as well in this case. Now religions are, we have talked about ethics, we have talked about values, we have talked about morality. Religions are set of beliefs and protocols that are culture specific and driven by some set of principles that determine it. For example, if you're going to take an example of some of the rules and protocols that every religion goes on to follow, and that is a part of it. We are talking about beliefs and protocols, and such type of beliefs and protocols include some of the conditions that have been made in a specific type of a culture. For example, it is a part of a lifestyle, not civilization. We are not going to be talking about civilization, and they're only talking about some of the things which may go on to become anachronistic. For example, in the desert regions, at one point of a time, in order to save the women from the marauders and from some of these group of people who may be killing some people mercilessly, what the gypsies they started doing was that people who used to be moving in the deserts, they asked their women folks to wear something black and covering them from top to toe. That is what we're going to be calling in modern day as burqa. Now, that was with some type of a design. The design was that women should be safer because in the night time, it will be difficult to spot anyone wearing completely black and from top to toe. So that was for the purpose of safety. Take another example. So that went on to become a set of a belief or a protocol in this case. Now, in a similar manner, you're going to see there is a good number of people whose religions developed in a desert or desert-like conditions like both Christianity as well as Islam. Now, most of these people go on to feel that they have to kill animals because that is going to be their food. It's completely correct. It's completely correct because in the desert, you don't going to be having a very high amount of and a very high density of vegetation as well. So, eating non-vegetarian food was a part of their culture. And because it was a part of their culture, then that was a part of a principle. Now, whether that goes on to be working right now or not, now that goes on to become a moot point. Now, worldwide, it is known that when you go on to eat non-vegetarian food, then you are actually adding to global warming. You are actually degrading the environment. And why is it that you are adding to global warming and adding to heat built up in that region, and you're also degrading the environment? Is because in order to process meat, in order to process beef, so much amount of water goes on to get wasted. And in any case, when you are a herbivore, when you can be herbivore and you choose to be a carnivore in a sense, then of course the amount of energy concentration that goes on to take place in the animals that decreases, and because that goes on to decrease, therefore what happens is a decrease in such type of energy means that you will go on to use a greater and greater amount of environmental resources in order to feed yourself. Now, whether that is ethical or not, answer is no, it's not ethical. It's not ethical to be eating a non-vegetarian food because that is degrading of the environment. That is responsible for wasting a lot of resources. That is responsible for a heat buildup in the environment. That is responsible for a good amount of a degradation that goes on to set up in the environment. And because you have an option to be vegetarian, why is it that you can go on to choose to be non-vegetarian only because of the taste? So maybe that you can go on to think that you are going to be the test of someone else. Then you shouldn't be complaining about it at all. That goes on to become ethical. So some of these religions which go on to follow certain type of sets of beliefs in this case, they may not go on to, some of these may not go on to be having any relationship with humanity at all. And that may not be ethical also, because that is what is going to be preached. And religion is going to be all about preaching some type of a protocol, culture, and a set of rules that you have to follow. And this is not the same thing as a spirituality. Spirituality is going to be completely different. And it's not the same as values, largely because once you understand that you are doing something wrong, now you have every right to correct yourself, to make yourself not wrong, and to correct yourself to become maybe quasi-wrong or maybe even right as well. And is it that the same treatment that you can go on to be making it to the animals, if you're willing, that the same thing to be meted out to you? Now, if you don't like it, then that is also not ethical. So, some of these religions, is it that they are going to be humane? Is it that they are going to be ethical in nature? Now, when we are going to be talking about all of these aspects, then religions the world over, all of these religions, we are going to be talking the world over, they go on to, they may not be preaching any type of morality, or even they are not ethical as well. That means none of them, that is, they don't go to preach morality, or they may not be ethical also, largely because they preach something else, do something else. They want you to do something else, they do something else completely different. So the core question that we have talked about is that, is it that religions are going to be spiritual? Is it that they are going to be moral? Is it that they are going to be ethical? And of course, the concern here is not about the criticism of the religions. All of these religions must go to exist because they all have evolved in different climatic condition, and because they have evolved in different type of climatic condition, they have adjusted themselves to according to that type of a situation. And all of these religions should go on to, we are using the word should go on to make a value judgment about whether they require any type of a change in the present world or not, because everything must keep on changing. They must be flexible. So is it not that the world has gone to become very different from what it used to be when, that is during 7th century, when maybe Islam took birth? That was in that, during that period of a time. And even before, something like when Christianity took birth, you remember, that is what Christianity did was that it said that the whole of the world is a disk, and that there is T in O. The world is shaped like a disk, and that the land masses are going to be shaped like that of a T, and that in the center of it is going to be Jerusalem. Now, anything that is going to be science without some type of a logic, and it was without logic that a good number of things happened, and because it happened, you imagine, you know, that Europe was in dark ages at that point of a time, dark ages of knowledge. Europe was, not India. India was flourishing because that was the time of Chola Empire in India, and India was the most developed civilization anywhere one can imagine. Even now, the grandeur that India was able to reach in terms of these things is completely unmatched. Completely unmatched. No one can go to match it. So there was nothing of this sort that was existing before. There is nothing of this sort that will going to exist even in the future, unless the world happens to start respecting humanity more and more in this case. So that has been religion. Spirituality is going to be completely different. Spirituality is not about, it's not going to be following any type of a protocol. Spirituality is going to be all about how is it that you go on to respond to a situation based on your inner consciousness, based on your voice, based on your logic, and so on and so forth. So accordingly, you'll go on to take a look at some of these religions. Of course, not all of them, because that is not the topic. For example, take the case of Sanatan. Sanatan is not a religion. It's not a universalizing religion. It is a lifestyle. It is therefore called as spiritual. We'll talk about it. How is it so? Christianity and Islam are religions. So, which one is going to be ethical? Which one is going to be having some degree of morality? And which one is going to be, of course, is spiritual? Sanatana is definitely spiritual. And Christianity can be, persons can go on to be spiritual, but the religion per se is not. And of course, with all the type of logic one can go on to put up, Islam is not at all in this case, and that is religion because it has a law that you have to come to a masjid on one certain day. You have to follow the preachings of Muhammad, whether Muhammad was going to be male or female, no one knows it. But then that is what exactly in the text. Whatever that is going to be in the text, in the ayat of Quran, what we're going to be talking about is what they have to follow, and they have to follow it very religiously. That means that is the rule and that is the law that they have to keep on following in this case. So there is some amount of a difference between that of religion and spirituality. And when we're going to be talking about it, then we indeed going to be making a way. And there is some amount of a difference between values and morality as well, morality and ethics as well. So let us see how is it that Sanatan, Christianity, maybe sometime Jainism, Islam, all of them are going to be different from each other. Now pick up the case that is religion is a way of life. It's a faith. It's a faith. That is how two difference evolve. That is how is it that they have adapted to that situation is how is it that they have evolved. Now spirituality has nothing to do with it. Spirituality is what one is to oneself. It's not an adaptation. You can go on to be having a different set of a mindset in different type of conditions. Whether you can go to be polar regions, so it will be different because you adapted yourself. In some places like deserts, you will be different because you adapted yourself in this case. So spirituality is what is logical to you, what is human to you. How is it that as a human being, you have been endowed with some degree of an empathy, and it is this empathy that you know of. Religion for all those people who require someone to define certain type of protocol, certain type of laws for them. Someone will go to define it. So in Bible, someone has defined it. In some of these religions, like that of Islam, again Muhammad has defined it. Now, is it that there is going to be one type of a scripture in Sanatan? Answer is no. There are thousands of it who don't want to be guided at all. That is, they can go on to be following a variety of type of rules in this case. It's not like that they want to be guided in spirituality, because spirituality is all about being truthful to oneself. That is, when you are going to be spiritual, you are truthful to yourself. Spirituality considers above all religion is humanity. Humanity is going to be above everything else, not anything else. Not that we are going to be talking about something in this case. So that goes on to become a condition. Now, other is going to be religion can be a set of dogmatic rules. Dogmatic rules means that is some of the type of rules which may not going to suit a good number of places. And that may be sans any type of logic. And there are going to be certain type of logic which will not going to suit at us. How is it that one can go to define that women in Islam can be divorced by someone who goes on to say talaq, talaq, talaq? How is it so? It doesn't going to be. It's a rule. It's a dogmatic rule of sorts. And that there is the women in Islam, if they have some type of discord and after talaq, they have to undergo what is called as nikah halala. They have to sleep with someone in order to prove their purity or whatever it can go on to be in this case. So that is a dogmatic rule. Not that this rule is wrong, but then it doesn't go on to fit the sense of logic in this case. Spirituality prompts a reason about everything. That is it that there is a reason behind it? If there is no reason, then of course it's not spiritual. Now take an example. There is Sanatan talks about that you have to worship the nature. There is a God in everything. Even in Islam there is God. Even in Quran there is God. Even in Muslim people there is God. That is the meaning of God is someone who is going to be helping you at one point of a time is analogous to being God. That is what exactly spiritualism talks about. It also says that trees have God largely because trees can go on to be a savior for you. They can go on to help you. They can save you. Trees can be a savior in this case. So that is spiritual. Then it also goes on to talk about that is even water is going to be God for you. So you have a God 1, God 2, God 3, God 4, God 4, 5, God 6, and that is symbolism. It talks about that if you're going to be very arrogant, you are bound to meet your end. Maybe that you can't go on to be so knowledgeable. And this is what happened with Ravan. Who killed Ravan? Is it that it was Ram who killed Ravan? No, it was what killed Ravan was I, me, myself. It was I, the feeling of it, that killed Ravan. Religion threatens and frightens. That means it goes on to instill certain degree of fear in you. It goes on to say, if you don't follow it, then God will go on to become angry and this and that and so on. Spirituality is about, it's governed by the ability to reason out actions. There is whatever that you're going to do, is it that you can go on to prove it? Is it that you can, it is going to be born out of any type of a reason? Reason, that means any type of a fact associated with it. If it is not, it's not spiritual. For example, of course, you will go on to find that there are hardly any dogmas associated with Sanatan, in the sense that it doesn't go to say that if you go on to eat meat and if you go on to don't eat meat, the one of those people who will go on to eat meat, they will be killed. It doesn't go on to be saying it so. So you can go on to be a meat eater, still you can go on to be Sanatani. You are not a meat eater, still you can be Sanatani. It doesn't go to say that if you don't go on to follow God, then God will punish you. It says that if you believe in God, you are a theist. If you don't believe in God, you are an atheist. It's as simple as that. That means you have enough amount of an independence to follow your life and follow all of these things. There are other aspects as well. For example, religion asks a question. It says that religion doesn't go and allow us to question itself. You cannot go on to question some of these things like that of you cannot go to question Islam. You cannot go to question Christianity because they don't want to be asked a question. But then you ask thousands of questions in Sanatan. And how is it that you can go to ask these questions? Spirituality questions everything and it tries to understand everything. So you're going to say that is what was the role of Lord Vishnu? Why is it that Lord Shiva used to be following a certain type of a lifestyle? Why is it that Ravan went on to become so arrogant? Why is it that someone like Lord Sri Ram was called as Maryada Purushottam? And was it that he went on to do right or wrong in trying to abandon Sita at one point of a time? You question gods in this case. Because you try to understand a lot of things in this case. Then religion follows books and preachings. Preachings are going to be important in this case. Also rituals. Now, if that is going to be ritual, if that is going to be having a God then that is not spiritual at all. Spirituality always seeks the sacred and purity of things in all books. If it is not so, consequently, that is problem. Ritualism is something that has penetrated in Hinduism, and if it is going to be without any reason, it's again not any religion also. And if it is going to be so, if the rituals have penetrated it, it is religion indeed. I mean, sorry to say that, it is religion. If it is that you going to follow certain type of preachings, so who has given a preaching in this case? Is it that you follow the preachings of Hanuman? Is it that it was Lord Ram who gave a preaching? Is it that it was Lord Vishnu who gave a preaching? No one has given you preaching at all. The only part that you're going to understand in this case is that of some type of a logic or a reasoning that was given by Krishna, was trying to make Arjun understand something, and that was in war. That was in the midst of a war. That was what was spiritual. He said that you can go to kill it or you do not go to kill it. It's about you to reason it. That's why you say that Gita will not go to solve your problem, but Gita will never go on to allow you to be under problem at all. Why? Because it talks about reasoning. It will never go on to make you unhappy. It may not go on to bring about happiness to you, but then you will come to know why is it that you are not happy in this case. That's why we say that spirituality seeks the sacred. and the purity of things in all the books and purity of thinking as well. That he talks about transparency, or what you feel, what you think, what you say, and what you do. Is it that they're completely congruent to each other? If they're not, then that is not pure at all. That means there is some degree of a manipulation involved with all of these things. Religion is a community-based system. When we say it is going to be community-based, that means individuals don't going to be having too much amount of a role in that. It focuses on making groups. There is you will going to form a lot of groups, and it is these groups that will go on to propagate this type of a religion. But spirituality welcomes all type of seekers, and it goes on to include everyone. You will go on to, if you are doing a good deed, then religion or no religion, person who goes on to be following God or not, theist or atheist, vegetarian or non-vegetarian, in this case, everyone is going to be welcome in it. And that is what goes on to make it spiritual. So it welcomes all the type of seekers. People who are going to be seekers for peace, seekers for humanity, seekers for transformation. They are the one who go on to be following it in all forms. Religion is also going to be based on followers. That is, if you have followers, it's going to be a good religion. And spirituality, they are going to be, of course, groups. So that's why they go on to be talking about followers and followers only. But then spirituality focuses on an individual, the progress of the individual in this case. And it says that you must go on to find the ultimate truth. And for me, the truth will be different. For you, the truth will be different. For someone else, the truth will be different. It is therefore everyone who has found the truth. Everyone who has found the truth, they will always going to feel very, very peaceful. It says, Vichara param jnanam shamohi param sukham. That is, the greatest quest is of knowledge is going to be your curiosity. And the greatest luxury is peace. So that's why it says that spirituality is a walk in solitude. It's not alone. And solitude doesn't going to mean alone. Not even a single religion is able to distinguish between being alone and being in solitude. When you're alone, you feel insecure. When you're in solitude, you feel happy. That's why we are talking about meditation. Meditation is being in solitude. Meditation is not about being alone at all. You may be in a crowd, but if you are going to be thinking about yourself, thinking in inwards, you are in solitude. Maybe that you are alone, completely alone, but then you are surrounded by all the beautiful thoughts. Then you are again accompanied by many companions in this case. Religion is it's a path, it's a method, it's a way of life. That is how is it that you're going to lead a life. So Christianity defines it. How is it that you have to lead a life? You have to go to a church every Sunday, or maybe Islam goes on to talk about that. You have to come to a masjid every Friday, and that you have to follow the mullah in that case. Now, spirituality is a realization to seek the purpose of life. What is the purpose? Why is it that you're going to live? It talks about the value of existence. That means even if it is that you're going to live, then how is it that you should go on to value it? Is it that you're living a life or merely existing? We talk about, is it that you're living a life or you are merely existing in this case? So, if any of these religions allow you to live a life, not merely exist, now that is spiritual. That is spiritual in this case. It is religion is going to be all about allowing you to exist. As we have talked about, it allows you to live, and that too ethically. So, if you are spiritual and a Sanatani, you live in a complete sense, because Sanatan goes on to be talking about your exist much beyond existence. It's like what has been shown here in this case. Spirituality is all about a fish that is going to be completely independent, and religion is about a fish that may be swimming, but that is inside a jar. You also go on to try to find out that is that ultimately all of these religions are going to be associated with a certain type of rules. Is it that all of the religions they do to you what you want them to be done to you? That is, take an example. If Talibanis are killing people in the name of religion, is it that the Talibanis will want to do the same thing to be done to them? The answer will be no. So consequently, it is not so. If Christianity is going to be converting Hindus en masse in India, Is it that they themselves will want to be converted? If answer is no, then that is no religion at all. That is not a moral also. So neither the Talibanis are going to be moral. If it is that any of these religions go on to talk of spreading some type of fear among the people, like if you don't go on to read Bible, if you don't go on to read Quran, then the God will go on to punish you, then is it going to be correct? Then the people who are going to preach it, they will go on to talk about that. No, it's not going to be correct because people have to be left independent. Now, that is where the focus had been. And the focus had been that is all of those type of religions that you're going to find it. Most of the religions will want you to be ethical. Answer is no. They will not. They will go to say something else, do something else. Is it that they will want you to question them? They will again going to say no, but you can go to question in some of the places. So not all the religions are moral. Not all the religions are ethical. Not all of them are spiritual. An individual can be spiritual. A Christian can be spiritual. A Muslim can be spiritual. Why? Because if he goes on to be having an empathy, if he realizes maybe some of these type of mistakes, if he goes on to talk about right or wrong, then that is you'll going to find a good number of people, Muslim followers also in United States, who will keep on wearing a t-shirt that is awesome without Allah. That means they are Muslims, but then they don't go on to talk about something that is wrong that has been done to them. You will go on to find a good number of devout Muslims in India, in elsewhere in the whole of the world as well, in Pakistan as well. It is going to be in the United States and Western countries as well, for whom humanity is their greatest religion. And then that is spiritual, because they keep the religion at bay, following it only for some amount of a time, as long as it doesn't going to interfere with humanity. So religions are not always spiritual, they are not always ethical, they are not always value loaded, and morality is something that is always going to be, it's not going to be judged. No one can go to judge the morality of a person who is going to be doing right or wrong. Morality is always felt. And if you feel that you are doing something right, you are right. If you feel that you are not doing something right, you know that you are not.
To have more such discussions and analysis, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for notifications on our upcoming videos.